Hey guys, welcome back to Community Mercenaries. It's been a hot minute, but we're here with another batch of tanks made by you guys in the Discord. Of course, if you have any of your own ideas, leave them in the comments below or in that corresponding Discord channel. And if I like it, it may debut in the next episode. But let's dive into this episode of Community Mercenaries. We'll start with a pretty simple yet interesting tank made by Aim for Ace in the Discord. No name was given for this tank, but I decided to call it the Object 123, as it's the Badger's 123mm gun on the Object 263's hull. It would obviously be a tier 10 tank destroyer with decent camo and speed, with the good but not impenetrable armor of the 263. The gun mantlet changing would be a shakeup to the armor profile, and we could either thin the sides of the quote-unquote cheeks to make them easier to pen in compensation, or just keep the mantlet of the 263. But what makes this tank interesting is that it was stated to have a 4-round autoloader variant of this gun. This would make for an interesting clip potential of 1920 with the 480 alpha damage this gun has. It was suggested with a 2-second intro clip, but I feel the need to change that to 3.5 to 4 seconds. And the reload value would have to keep this thing's DPM below 3000 base, so a lengthy above 35-second reload perhaps? It would be a scary tank otherwise, with high clip potential and good armor. That, or make it a 3-shot autoloader instead, in which case you could quicken the intra and reload, but still keeping the DPM fair. This thing would rival the 120mm Foch autoloader for sure, with better maneuverability and speeds, but not matching the Foch's 120mm 2400 clip potential that makes it deadly in its own right. Overall, this is an interesting concept to make an autoloader Badger, but with the state of the game at the moment, we would have to be very careful with its stat values if we were to introduce this tank. Personally though, I think this would have been more interesting and less detrimental to the tier 10 health if this was added over the Ruthless in that tank's debut season as the tier 10 mercenary tank destroyer. But what do you think? Moving on to a tank with less alpha damage but still packing a punch for its class, we have the LongRod, made by Newbie in the Discord. It's the chassis of the LTTB with a Chinese WZ-132's turret mounted with a 122mm gun. This one I took from the tier 8 Chinese tank destroyer because it looked cool. This would be a 390 alpha gun on a tier 8 light tank, which we've already seen with the recently released ERAC 105. But this is a bigger caliber obviously. And with the downsides of the tier 8 122s with the low standard pen and average heat pen, which fits well for the light tank class. It would have pretty bad hull and turret traverse speeds, but high top speeds and probably the worst accuracy of all tier 8 lights. It would have better HE splash potential with its caliber than the ERAC, as well as more HP, but they would both have the same view ranges. The ERAC having better camo though, it would still be a close call. With the ERAC already having one of the worst DPMs of its class and tier, this 122mm would have to be on the same level just intrinsically. I would definitely hesitate to make a 122mm on a light tank have superb gun handling and not take a toll on the light tank's maneuverability, so it would definitely have a hard time competing with the ERAC. But if we bounce the ERAC with 360 alpha instead and let this thing have its alpha uniquely to itself, that would help this tank stand out a little more. Otherwise, despite how neat of a tank it is, it probably wouldn't be the best of its class, and that's completely fine. I can't deny how cool this thing would look though, especially with whatever wargaming could do to spice this thing up that I couldn't. Remember, I just put them together and color match at times. But this next one I decided not to color match for good reason. I think this tank looks best as a mismatched cutie called the NailGun. I definitely saved the best one for last. The NailGun was made by 1515 in the Discord and is comprised of a Chaffee's chassis, which I love my Chafees, with an SP1C's turret and the Matilda's gun. The name is just perfect for this fast-firing low-alpha spewer from the Matilda. He said it would be a tier 6, which definitely means we're using the top gun on the Matilda, which has 55 alpha and penetration values that fit right in as a tier 6 light. To be honest, there are a few tanks in this series that I actually get kinda upset don't actually exist, and this has become one of them. I kinda need it to. It's just so good of a concept and idea that it needs to exist. Believe it or not though, this might deserve a reload buff. because if it stayed the exact same as the Matilda, it would be a contender for the worst DPM tier 6 light tank, which isn't how I would envision the NailGun to be. Cutting down the reload to a clean 2 seconds base would give it a DPM value of only 1650, which would still be on the low end, but it would surpass some tanks and feel more viable. With the turret given, it would have the top of the line view range as well, but the Chaffee body would mean its camo is less than that of the turret's donors. Personally, I think it's a great combo of parts and a solid identity and concept that is the reason I started this series in the first place. This tank exemplifies mercenary concepts to the T of what they could be. Sorry if I'm praising this one too much, but it's just quality. That's of course not to say the other two aren't, after all they made it into a video and are interesting in their own rights, but I just really want Wargaming to add their NailGun to the game right now. That's how much I like this concept. I know Mercenaries got a lot of flack at their release for not being real tanks and being reused assets to create new things to spend money on, but I think this game is one of the few that can do that and have it actually work and be such a great opportunity for new content. It's unique in that way, and why I hope they continue to add more in the future, and maybe, just maybe, someone at Wargaming is watching, and will add this little guy to the next batch. One can only hope. Nonetheless, that'll do it for today's batch of community-made mercenary tanks. I hope you enjoyed, and you have your own ideas you'd like to see potentially in the next one. Thanks for watching, and take care.